Welcome back, everyone. New tweets from the president this morning, in particular about his meeting with the German chancellor. Despite what you have heard from the fake news, I had a great meeting with German Chancellor Angela Merkel. Nevertheless, Germany owes vast sums of money to NATO, and the United States must be paid more for the powerful and very expensive defense it provides to Germany. A reaction to those tweets in a few minutes. Let's bring in Carrie Lucas, Managing Director of the Independent Women's Forum, and Jonathan Alter, MSNBC political analyst at the Daily Beast and the Daily Beast columnist. Great to have both of you guys with us. Carrie, let me begin with you, first of all. By most accounts, this was an awkward meeting. Even according to a report that the German chancellor asked or said, should we shake hands, to which Trump didn't shake hands with him in that White House picture. The body language, he cracked that joke. She didn't find very funny when she talked about the wiretap. What is your reaction to how President Trump is describing it and how it actually played out in public?
Well, this is one of those things that the American people are going to just look past, and they're focused on things like domestic policy. It's great that Trump is out there meeting with leaders around the world, but people are mostly concerned about what's happening here at home. They want us to be as strong on abroad, but they don't care if Angela Merkel isn't having great laughs with the president. That's not what the American people care about. That's not what's going to determine our country's interests. So I think this is a big, media likes to cover how foreign leaders receive their presidents. I know that people often thought it was fabulous that President Obama was so beloved by foreign leaders. It didn't really help America very much. It didn't help our position overseas. So I think this is going to blow. This is just a bump on the road, or just a very short-term story. Okay, to that point, Jonathan, some tough talk about Germany paying its dues. That's certainly something most Americans, if not all Americans, would say is a fair approach. That Germany should be paying more to NATO, certainly paying more for its dues in the membership of that security alliance. Is the president right in taking that approach? How do you characterize the meeting with Angela Merkel?
Well, first of all, we weren't in the meeting. All we can judge is based on the way she looked, which was that she seemed to be gritting her teeth. The president, brought up in public embarrassing diplomatic incidents from the past, like the United States spying on Merkel when she was at the UN. The idea that somehow our relations with Germany and our other allies is not relevant to American interests, as Kerry indicated, I could not disagree more. Take the shots that the president took yesterday against British intelligence by parroting the account of a Fox News analyst who was immediately denounced by Fox News. And you notice that the president directed people to his comments saying that British intelligence spied on him through President Obama. We need British intelligence. We need German intelligence. We need all of our NATO's intelligence to keep us safe from terrorists. So the idea that we can just take shots at these people or say the kinds of things that the president said about Angela Merkel, us, Jonathan. These are really terrible kinds of things to say about our allies.
All right, guys, I know we could talk about this for a few minutes, but I definitely want to get your take on some of the other top stories this week. Carrie, in particular, the tough headlines for Republicans, including criticism of some of these apparent budget cuts, including Meals on Wheels, I should say. Have Republicans earned this criticism?
Well, American families have been having to get by on less for a decade. We've worried a lot about the cost of living going up, about wage stagnation. American families have been having to find places to trim in the budget. And we face a $20 trillion national debt. That's something we should be taking seriously.
Are programs like Meals on Wheels and the $1.35 people pay for the Public Broadcast Corporation, are those the budget cuts?
The American people are tired of paying for things like the Corporation of Public Broadcasting. Here we have places like MSNBC. We have a bunch of wonderful options when it comes to news. We don't need to be paying millions of dollars into a another left-wing news channel. I think that's a perfect place to start cutting. This is something that the private industries have taken care of, and competition has more than covered. We certainly don't need that anymore.
Jonathan, your response to that budget cut.
So let's just talk about Meals on Wheels for a second. Mick Mulvaney, the budget director, said the program doesn't work. I don't know what he's talking about. It's actually 5,000 different anti-hunger programs that help end the isolation and hunger of elderly Americans. It's been supported by people in both parties for many years. There's nothing wrong with that program. And the idea that, people in Washington want to act that cold and cruel toward our seniors, I think, is really reprehensible. In terms of the budget itself, discretionary spending, which is what this Trump budget hits, is at the lowest rate as a percentage of GDP in 50 years. So it's not like the federal government has been spending a lot more on these kinds of programs in recent years. Many of them have been cut and cut again. The idea of trying to squeeze any significant savings out of these programs is completely unrealistic.
Well, I agree with Jonathan that absolutely, if we want to get serious about tackling the budget problems and our long-term fiscal problems, then we have to talk about entitlement spending and reforming Social Security. Unfortunately, that's something that President Obama wasn't interested in at all during his 8 years, and I very much hope that it's something that that President Trump will prioritize. I think it's a shame he hasn't talked more about that, frankly. We need to talk about reforming. Yeah, that's a shame, Jonathan, just as President Obama wasn't. I wish we would.
Carrie,
Republicans and Democrats should make that a priority.
Quick question for you. You had some former national security senior officials, generals, and have you say that the cuts to the State Department means that essentially the military is going to have to buy more bullets, because when you take away soft diplomacy, you're more likely to go to war. What do you think of that?
Well, everybody's trying to defend their budget. I imagine that the State Department can find plenty of ways to cut other spending so they can prioritize those that are important for our national interest. Absolutely. I hope this is the start of a conversation about what's really important. And there is, we all want to look at things like investments in healthcare spending and services for the poor. But the question is this the best way? Is the federal government the best place to fund it? Is it better for states to do it? Is it better for a huge Washington bureaucracy to be in charge of all these little programs that are really there on the ground, or is it better to try to put more power and more resources in the hands of states? You don't have to support these budget cuts. You don't have to think these programs are all bad. It's whether or not Washington, having all this tax money come to Washington, is an efficient way to fund them.
The State Department doesn't refer to the states. We have one nation, and we need a State Department representing that nation. It has a tiny budget.
But there is plenty.
It is a tiny budget compared to the rest of the government. And many Republicans have, over a long period of time, supported robust diplomacy. It beats war. To be cutting this is insane.
Jonathan, really quickly, Jonathan, really quickly, 9% defense budget increase. Do you think that's a smart decision, additional with 7% to Homeland Security?
It seems high to me, but I think there are certain areas where perhaps defense might need a little bit of an increase. But both parties agreed just a few years ago that this defense spending was high enough, and I haven't seen any indications that it needs to go a lot higher.
All right, guys, I'm going to have to leave it at that for